Sup everyone, Peacemaker here, and today, as you guys can see, pretty straightforward, right? We're gonna go through the European RMRB and we're gonna do a tier list, right? Who do we think is gonna go through? And for that, of course, we're gonna go through each one of the teams. We also gonna see a little bit of the tournament format of how it works. As far as I remember, there's gonna be 16 teams, right? With 7 spots on the line, just like the Americas RMR if you ended up watching it. And here's all the teams involved. But before we do that, let's just check real quick how is the tournament environment, how is the tournament format and everything, right? Dates, it starts on the 21st of November, goes until the 24th in Shanghai, China. Actually, the first CS2 major in Asia. And here's all the teams. We're going to go through that in a second. But this is important, right? That you guys understand how is the tournament format, right? So 7 teams goes through and are qualified to the major. Swiss best of 1 opening matches, which honestly I don't really like it that much. I think it's an outdated format. I'm not really a big fan of that in CS2 with the max rounds as it is nowadays. With how important it is winning pistols, winning first weapons in those games, and then by the time you wake up, maybe it's a little bit too late if you end up losing both pistols, first weapon rounds, and then it kind of favors underdogs in that sense. But there's actually one thing that favors underdogs even more in this particular major, which is the fact that the teams, at least until now, right? Maybe it changes for the European RMR, but until the Americas RMR, they are not playing in a studio environment, in a stadium or anything like that, right? They have like a sort of like a practice room where they're playing together, and I mean, there's no really pressure, right? Like it's kind of like a boot camp environment where there's not really pressure. So that also favors a lot of these less experienced rosters when it comes down to, playing in such an important event like this with a lot of money on the line, stickers on the line, and the prestige of, being a part of the first CS2 major in Asia. Like everybody knows how huge that's going to be. So yeah, 7 teams are going to go through. And then how does it work, right? Basically, you have to win 3 matches and you're through. And if you lose 3 matches, you're out. But then 4th place decider match is BO3. 7th place decider match is BO3. Progression matches and elimination matches are also BO3. And then in the last day of this RMR, we're going to have, if I'm not mistaken, 6 teams who are going to be on the 2-2 pool. And then depending on the seeding and the book call system, whatever, like one of them will go through and the other 2 will play a tiebreaker to decide who takes the 7th spot on the line, right? And remember, this is the second RMR. There's already been we're going through the European RMR A, so there's a lot of other teams involved from Europe. But here we have a couple good teams, right? A couple of very known teams that you guys are used to watch, especially entire Tier S events. But let's go straight to this, right? And I'm gonna try to do it as fast as possible, as honest as possible. And for that, we selected a couple of rankings here. So here we have the favorites. Who do we think is 100% making it through? And then we're going to select a couple teams that we think have good chances. Teams that could make a run. Then comes down to teams that would only need a fucking miracle to make it happen. And then there is a list of teams that we absolutely think there is no chance they will make it, right? So let's start off by talking about, maybe we can just follow this list, or let's start from the bottom, from Sashi, right? Sashi, Honden's roster, and I mean, this roster, when they started competing internationally, like in bigger events, I thought they would be like one of the best Danish teams, right? And they did great to some extent, upset a couple teams, did some great matches, but lately their online results are underwhelming, right? They're losing matches to 500. They're struggling to beat Rebels. They're losing 2-0 to Gun 5. They lose to Into the Breach, Insidio. Struggling to beat Permita. So, it's very hard for me to believe that a team that is struggling to beat this type of opposition, that they actually do stand a chance of winning a spot like this. But in fact, they do have a couple of good players, right? And they have a very experienced coach who's been there with Astralis before, with other rosters as well. So maybe that could, play a part on this. They have good players as well, right? Mistar, Lucky, more experienced players together with, young. This is a relatively young roster, right? Average player age 23 years old. But honestly, like, what do we think about this team? Um, I'm not even gonna check who are gonna play in the first match or whatever, because that doesn't really matter for me, right? If a team starts 1-0, we've seen this before in pretty much all the RMRs. That doesn't really matter if you start 0-1, 1-0. That doesn't guarantee that you're gonna make it through, right? We just saw in the Americas RMR, for example, Legacy plays Furia on the first match, steals their seed, win the game, and then we all start to believe like, hey, yeah, maybe it's not actually a miracle. Maybe they can actually do it. And then we start dreaming, and then they drop off after that, lose every single game, and then they're out. And so it doesn't really matter if you win or lose the first game. Obviously, it does matter for the favorites, because then you lose your actual seeding, right? For a team like G2, for example, they're going to play probably like a very worst team compared to them in terms of the ranking. And then if they lose that match, the other team steals their seed, and then that ruins their camp. I mean, we've seen this with Furia at the Americas RMR, right? The loss to Legacy pretty much made them suffer throughout the whole RMR until the end, right? Deus. But anyway, so Sashi, I would say they need a miracle. Honestly, like, I'm not going to put it on no chance, because they actually do have a little bit of a chance, but I don't think they're going to make a run. I do think they would only qualify if they pull a miracle based on their last results. So here we go. We did Sashi. Then we're going to go through this big roster again, right? I mean, on paper, it looks really good. A lot of experienced players. Searson has been in majors before. Tabson, star player of the team. They have a good coach. They have a good system. They have good structure. They have everything. But when it comes down to their last results, again, ESL Challenger Atlanta, they lose to FlyQuest. They beat Sol, which is a great result, honestly. They beat M80. They beat Audit. But, I mean, those results are, it's sort of like an obligation. Like, they have to win these matches. If they're losing these matches, then, it doesn't really make much sense, right? But then we go a little bit like towards September, and then they lose 2-0 to Ecstatic. They are struggling to beat alternate attacks. They lose to Gun 5 in Yala Compass Fall 2024, 2-1. I've seen this game, and it was not good at all. But at the end of the day, we're talking about a team that has a lot of potential. This is online matches. When it comes to LAN, I think they will come prepared. Big is very famous for being a team that prepares a lot for their opponents. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to place Big. Where is Big? Okay, here, Big's logo. I'm going to put Big on could make a run. I think they actually could make a run on this one. Then, what's the last one? Okay, 9 Pandas. 9 Pandas, number 37 on HLTV rankings. They have pretty good players as well. They have a really good opera, in my opinion, on ID's balance. They did do well in the last RMR, in Copenhagen's RMR. Their last results online, as you guys can see, are pretty good, right? They have a pretty good run here, actually. Like, the last game they lost was to 500, also in Yala Compass. Pretty bad results, but besides this one, they actually do beat all the position they have, right? Yes, it's tier 3 teams, I would say. Not really relevant teams, but still, they're not dropping maps at all. So, and they have an opening match against Astralis, right? Which is a team coming with a standing. But, as we said, it doesn't really matter, right? You know what? I'm just going to say, I'm just going to put 9 Pandas as could make a run or need a miracle. What do we think, guys? Because, I don't want to put too many teams on the could make a run. I'm actually going to put them on could make a run. Based on the last results online, based on the experience they have, they did well at the last RMR, so I'm just going to put it on could make a run. Let's just go to Passion UA. Okay, this is a great example of a team that basically has no experience at all playing in such big environments like this one, and that could actually favor them, the fact that they're not going to play in a stadium or they're not going to play in a studio or anything like that. Their last results, though, yikes, right? Losing to 9, losing to Permita, losing to 500, doesn't look good at all. Yes, they did great online, but honestly, I'm not even going to spend too much time on this one. I actually don't think these guys can go through. So they are going to be my first team on no chance. I don't believe in this roster. I don't think they have what it takes to be a top 7 team in this particular tournament. So moving forward, we have Bait Team. Okay, where is the Bait logo actually? Wait, what a second. B8. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, B8, right. Okay, B8. Sort of like the same thing that I do believe that could be the case for Passion Ua. But this team, though, they do actually have better results, right? They played ESL Challenger Katowice, which was on LAN. They did really great, and they surprised me a lot by their performances here. And I think that does indicate that this team comes really prepared and with extra motivation after the run in Katowice, right? Yes, they ended up losing in the final to Seoul. That's true. But still, beating Eternal Fire 2-0, beating Pen Gaming 2-1, right? We're talking about teams that are doing relatively well in big tournaments. And then making it very competitive against Seoul as well in their first match they had. They also played Elisa Masters Espo and also competed pretty decent, even though they lost 2-0 to Heroic and Mongols. But still, I think they're a team that are on the rise, right? They are playing better and better every event they participate. So I think, straight up, I'm just going to put them on could make a run. Here we go. We have Bait on could make a run. Parivision, okay. I mean, this team on paper looks nice, right? Art, Frost, Patsy, experienced player. Kickhead from Virtus.pro looks really good. But again, another team that are struggling online against much weaker opposition. And there's a lot of drama around this roster as well, using the coach who was banned before, cheating in qualifiers. Like, I don't know. I honestly, just straight up, I'm just going to put them on no chance. No chance. I don't think this team will go through. TSM, again, a roster with a lot of experienced players. Akor, who I actually coached before. Nico as well. Valde, I mean, you guys know him very well. Zyphon and Sira, the youngest player, the upcoming talent from Denmark. And again, another roster with, you guys can see the results. It speaks for itself. It doesn't look good, right? It just doesn't look good. But when it comes to LAN, things changes. And this is the type of team that actually, I'm just going to put them on Need a Miracle, just like Sashi. I actually do believe that they are kind of like the same level as Sashi. Could be a miracle. They actually need like really good matchups. They need like, I don't know, G2 to actually go 3-0. They need to have weaker opposition to maybe actually make a run. And they will end up having to beat a strong team. So maybe if they end up like in a matchup, let's say TSM Heroic, for example, right? They could actually beat Heroic. They could actually make it competitive against Eternal Fire, depending on what kind of Eternal Fire shows up, right? Like, they could actually make it competitive against Virtus.pro, but I don't think they stand a chance against the G2s of the world, the Spirit, those type of teams, even Astralis, right? Even though it's kind of like a Danish matchup, BO1 as well, right? We have to take that into consideration, but honestly, I'm just going to put them on Need a Miracle for now. Okay, Aurora. What do we think about Aurora, guys? Aurora, they actually play a lot of events, right? They do play a lot lately, but they do have a really, really rough opening match in this one. Actually, like, I have to be fair, right? If I'm putting 9 Pandas, B8, big, then I just have to put Aurora on the could make a run list. That leaves us with how many teams? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. Okay, so here, now we're getting to the this is going to be a fun one. NIP with a standing. Their last results, like, if NIP cannot beat Metisport on LAN on Svenska Cupen 2024, if they cannot take a single map on LAN grand final against Metisport, what makes me believe these guys can actually do anything? Honestly, NIP, I'm going to be fair with them. I'm not going to put it on no chance. I'm going to put it on a miracle, right here, okay? This is how it is. I'm sorry, NIP, but the results speaks for itself. Moving on, 3D Max. 3D Max, they have a good chance, straight up, right? A roster that has been competing together for a long time. They have good results. They're reaching great finals in the last couple of events. They did great in ESL Challenger as well. They're playing a lot, and yeah, they have couple struggles online here and there, but I actually do think that they are a good team that plays good under this type of environment, right? I don't think they're gonna feel any pressure. I think 3D Max has to have a good chance in this one, and that's gonna leave us with, you know, the more known teams, the teams that you guys definitely believe that they could make it, right? And we're gonna start by talking with we're going to start by talking about Astralis. And talking about Astralis, again, a team that's going to come with a roster change, right? The Vice decided that he's not going to travel to China. He's not feeling well. And because of health issues, Bro is going to be standing. And Astralis could actually benefit from this, right? Kaden is going to go back to his main role, which is being an AWPer. He's going to steal IGL. He did it before. There's no change on that. Yes, Bro is going to have to adapt a little bit. There's going to be a couple of, you know, roles that is going to have to change within the team so Kaden can actually AWP and be in map control and all the kind of stuff. But I do believe that could benefit Kaden, and that could benefit Astralis as well. And when you take a look in those teams, right, I just cannot believe that Astralis can't have a good chance, right? I just have to put them on good chance, even though they're gonna play with the standing. But comparing to these type of teams and the results that they have, like, it would be a massive disaster if Astralis goes 0-3, for example, or that they actually don't make it to the last day of this RMR. Maybe they end up losing on a 2-2 match, whatever, but they have to be there. They have to be on the last day, in my opinion. Then moving on, it's going to be pretty straightforward, right? Heroic. What do we think about Heroic, guys? I mean, they won events lately. They're doing great. They're playing great finals. They are improving for sure. Relatively great roster. Really good AWPer. An IGL that's coming up. Like, here's the thing, right? I'm yet to see Kishan perform and actually IGL in a very like packed event, right? This is not really a good example because like they're gonna end up playing like teams that I do think they are massive favorites, but at the major, that's another story, right? But since we're talking about the RMR with 7 spots on the line, I think I'm just gonna go straight up and put them. Should I they're not favorites, but they do have a good chance, right? They do have a great chance. We have 7 teams here, so that's just so you guys understand. Like these next teams here, all these teams, 3D Max, Astralis, Heroic, those are the teams that I actually think that are going to go through, right? And obviously these other 4 teams here, I also believe they're going to go through. Now, when it comes down to having a good chance of being the favorites, that's what we're going to decide right now. So Virtus.pro, what do we think about Virtus.pro? Again, a very inconsistent team. It really depends what kind of Virtus.pro shows up, right? I cannot put them as favorites because my favorites are the last 3 ones. So I'm going to put VP on a good chance, and then obviously G2 is my favorite one, is followed by Spirit, and then Eternal Fire. Those are the 3 teams that I 100% think they will make it, right? Doesn't matter, whatever, like it would be a completely disaster if those teams don't make it. So my final list is here, and who do I think is going to go through? So G2, Spirit, Eternal Fire, 3D Max, Astralis, Heroic, and VP. And by the way, watch out. VP and Heroic could actually be out. And then we could have teams such as Big, maybe, you know, one of these CIS teams could make a run. You know, B8 playing really well on LAN lately. I actually do think that B8 could make it very competitive against all these 4 teams here. So let's see what happens, right? And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys enjoyed my tier list. And leave it in the comments. I want to know who do you guys think is going to go through the European RMR B. Cheers.